I think we can start at this point. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live webinar of Hacking Magazine. My name is Bartek Adach, and I have a great pleasure to present you with the live webinar that revolves around the topic of the latest online course released by Hacking Magazine, entitled AWS Security Essentials Building Resilient Cloud Defense. The course has been designed and is instructed by Ms. Afshan Naqvi, who is with us today. Hello, Afshan. How are you doing?
Hi Bartek, I hope my voice is audible.
Yeah. It's audible very well.
That's great.
So Afshan is a skilled professional in cybersecurity and currently working as an OSINT analyst at an Israeli company. She is adept at gathering insights from open source information. Beyond her analytical role, Afshan is a cybersecurity instructor at SOC Experts and SecureZ.io organizations where she brings real world understanding to her teaching. Her previous experience as an AWS administrator adds to her expertise, backed by her AWS Cloud Practitioner certification and involvement in the AWS Community Builder program. On top of all that, she runs a YouTube channel called AFS Hackers Academy, where she shares her insights and knowledge with a wider audience. And we also have with us Mr. Stafford Titus. Hello, Stafford. How are you today?
Hey, hey, I'm doing good. How about you? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Stafford is an ethical hacker and web developer with immense interest in the cybersecurity field. Stafford recently obtained a master's degree at New York University in cybersecurity. Um, his interests are focused on penetration testing, reverse engineering, automotive hacking, to name a few. Stafford has also written a lot of articles on cybersecurity that have been published in Pentest Magazine, Hacking Magazine, among others. Also, Stafford launched a cybersecurity course for Pentest Magazine on defending the cloud, entitled AWS Pen Testing Defending the Clouds. That's the name of the course. Just to mention, if you are interested in participating in Afshan's course, there are still seats available, and the course session is still on, which means that the course is still available in lower price. So somewhere here you should have a banner, and when you click on it, it will direct you to the product page. After the questions posted by Stafford, you will also have an opportunity to ask some questions. We will choose the questions. So naturally, as in the webinar, you can join the discussion. So without further ado, Stafford, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Bartek. Thank you so much. It's great to meet you, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I think we can go ahead and kind of, get into this. And so, Afshan, I just wanted to ask you like a bit about, an intro to your course. It's like, can you provide kind of like an overview of the AWS Security Essentials course?
Yeah, sure. Like AWS Security Essential Course basically covers the fundamental security concepts in AWS, and it includes topics like the shared responsibility model, which is the heart of AWS, obviously, and we will also cover the identity and access management, key security services like Guard Duty, Amazon Inspector, Amazon Macy, and Secret Manager.
Yeah.
And we can also go for encryption basics as well in module number 4, I guess.
Yeah.
So this course is perfect for beginners who are just started out their career in cloud and they are interested in the cloud security.
Like these are some fancy terms that you shared, and like I've done AWS for a bit, and these are fancy terms. So like you said, in terms of like like beginners can understand this. How do you think you kind of laid it out for them that they could are you like building it up on the basics, or how is it going to be?
Like it requires some kind of AWS knowledge. I cannot cover all the AWS services. The EC, what is EC2, what is EC2 instances, and what is S3 service,
Hmm.
what is VPC, and what is the public and private subnet. What is the difference between that? I didn't cover that, but you just have to have some basic experience
Right.
in this, like for taking this course, because it is for the security focus, right?
And I think like something that also people should also kind of know is like you have your YouTube channel too, right? Where you actually talk about a lot of this, and I think that for them to go there and kind of understand a little, get a lay of the land and a little bit of knowledge before they can also help, right?
Yeah, I have actually, you know, recorded some videos related to cyber and owned labs. They both are new in the industry of AWS cloud penetration testing. If you are really interested, then check them out. Both are amazing. So I've covered some, walkthrough videos of, IAM enumeration and S3 enumeration. It is
Right,
all about, AWS command line.
right.
So yeah,
And
if you're, yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of like resources does your like what kind of research do you provide in the course so that people can kind of keep up with what you're teaching them?
I will, I have included all the materials, all the notes and everything in the slides, the course slide. And I have also, included separate files for these services, the AWS core services,
Right.
where we cover our practical demos, right? Like Amazon Macy and Amazon Inspector, Lambda function codes. It will be a step-by-step guide for anyone who wants to implement this practically.
So, do you think that your kind of like practical approach to this sets you apart from other AWS courses? Because like I've I've kind of created one course too, so that's why I'm asking. What is kind of the unique characteristic that sets it apart?
I believe in scenario based learning,
Okay.
because scenario based learning will definitely helps you to understand and remember the stuff related to AWS. Because at the end of the day, we have to utilize this knowledge in our interview, and for remembering purpose, you have to go for scenario based learning. And I've included some cool demos, the practical demos that
Hmm.
you guys can include in your resume, add all these practical demo in your resume as a mini projects, so that will be a plus point in your job hunting.
Yeah, that definitely I can say for a fact that a lot of practical demonstration and projects really help you when you're going to interviews and stuff. So that's
Yeah.
really in terms of like instructor support, like what kind of support do you provide there? Like, can people ask you questions? Like, they're trying to set something up and it doesn't work out, right? Because that happens almost all the time in AWS.
Yeah,
How do they reach you, and like what kind of like help do they have there?
to be honest, I'm more active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So just reach out to me on LinkedIn, just raise your queries, ask question there. Like, I will definitely try my best to answer your queries there. So yeah, LinkedIn will be the best place for
Right.
ask question. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And like we've been talking about the course, right? And like I think let's get into more nitty gritty questions. Kind of like
Yeah.
uh, just so that people over here they can kind of understand at least a bit of AWS and like what it is about and like what you're going to be talking about in the course and things like that. So,
Yeah.
what do you think are like the core principles in terms of AWS security?
Like the best practices for AWS security.
Yeah, in terms of best practices, like configuration and stuff, but also like what are the core principles just for like AWS security? What's your view on AWS security?
I would say that we have to use IAM effectively, because I think, according to me, IAM is the heart of AWS, and implement, least privilege access all the time, just give necessary permission to your users, roles, and groups.
Hmm.
And
Do you
always, yeah.
do you think that IAM is kind of like one of the leading factors for a lot of vulnerable kind of instances and things like that?
Yeah, basically, the misconfiguration happen in IAM policies and services. So yeah, definitely.
Right. And what do you think are a lot of like the security concerns that like different organizations would face when they move from like let's say an on-prem situation to the cloud, right, to AWS?
To be honest, I haven't worked on any AWS cloud migration project yet,
Mhm.
but I would say that you need to have a proper migration plan if you are transferring your data from AWS, from on-premises to AWS.
Right.
And I can say bandwidth is might be a problem. According to me, the insufficient bandwidth, network bandwidth will definitely cause you trouble if you are transferring your data from on-prem to AWS cloud. And I can also think about the encryption. If you are transmitting your data from one source to another, so it should be encrypted, right? So maybe these types of, uh, you know, organization face these types of issue when they migrate their data.
And I think like when you were talking about like encryption and stuff like that, right? Like, I think something people also need to understand is like the shared responsibility model.
Yeah, obviously.
Like, could you explain a little more on that? That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. AWS shared responsibility model obviously provide like who is responsible for securing what components of the cloud. So we have two entities. We have AWS, that is a cloud provider, and AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. It will manage all the underlying infrastructure, hardware, data centers, everything, the core services of AWS, like compute service, network related service, and storage services. And we also have another entity like we as a customer, and we are responsible for our data, because it is our data. We are responsible for securing the data, application, and the network configurations. So yeah, it's our data, so we are responsible for encrypting it, like
Mm.
who has access to what. We are responsible for that. So yeah, this is how this AWS shared responsibility model work.
So like in terms of when you say that the user has, has also some responsibility in taking care of the data and stuff like that. Like if it belongs in their network, right? It's like easy, comparatively easier for them to like monitor and like kind of log and stuff. Like how does that work in terms of like AWS? Like where does that come in? Like does AWS provide any help in that, or like are the users just left hanging on their own?
No, we have like AWS provide the monitoring and logging services like CloudTrail and CloudWatch for proper monitoring, like who has access to your data, and you can easily monitor your data with the help of AWS CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Actually, I have included two scenarios for that, like how to integrate AWS Cloud and AWS CloudWatch together,
Hmm,
and AWS config for compliance purpose. So
got
yeah,
it.
yeah, these two scenarios are very important in terms of like monitoring.
Got it. And like in terms of when the users, again, like when we're talking about the shared responsibility model, the users have a responsibility. So
Yeah.
and I'm aware, right? Like AWS, there are like a lot of misconfiguration vulnerabilities that come up, So like how, like what kind of help or what kind of insight does AWS on from their side provide in terms to like configure certain buckets properly, or like configure certain instances properly or services properly? What's something that security considerations from AWS?
I think as a customer, we are responsible for providing this access. We are responsible for managing the IAM service because, it is really important for us to, you know, give user proper permissions to proper resources. So I think it is not a part of AWS to provide the security that is related to access management. It is us as a customer, as a AWS administrator, we are responsible for creating policies and implementing those policies. Yeah.
What do you think are some standard policies or stuff that you'd recommend people to just do, like maybe like encrypting data in a specific standard, right, or something like that, and like some basic configurations, like, that you'd say would really
I would say in AWS, we have two types of encryption, right? Like server side encryption and client side encryption. So I would suggest you guys to go for AWS S3 managed keys. Like it is a server side encryption, and KMS keys. It is also it is also available, and dual KMS is also then it provide the extra layer of protection to your data. if you are handling sensitive data like from banks or financial institute, then the service, the KMS services will definitely helps you.
Got it. Got it. And like obviously, like I've heard of AWS Lambda. I've used it a little bit. I know this is kind of a deep topic for a lot of people because Lambda is, like kind of like serverless functions that just execute, right?
Yeah,
What do you think are like security considerations there in terms of that?
I like in terms of writing code you are
Yeah.
talking about.
So yeah,
Yeah,
there's
obvious.
obviously going to be static analysis, right? Like you gotta like analyze your code and like secure code. You
Yeah,
want.
secure coding practices, obviously. And you can also utilize the Amazon inspector to check if your Lambda function is vulnerable to any kind of vulnerability or not. So that will be a great consideration, like security consideration for AWS Lambda.
Got it. Got it. And could you like also like kind of give like a little bit of overview? Like you said, you have some cloud trail. I think you said some scenarios. Like, can you like give an overview? Like just an idea of what scenarios people can expect in like
In
cloud.
CloudTrail, I can say that we will integrate this, like when the user login, when a particular user login by AWS console. So that particular event will be recorded, and the AWS administrator will get that email through SNS topic. So that that I have covered in the course.
Got it. Got it. So you're helping people kind of like set up the best defense possible, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, that's the main focus of this course.
Got it. Got it.
Because at the
Yeah.
end, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, interviewer will ask you these types of questions,
That is
and yeah.
That is true. That is true. I've been in situations where I've been asked, "How would you configure this specific environment or this specific
Yeah.
right?" And I think that it's pretty cool that you're covering these deep topics because a lot of times it's a lot of people don't really cover deep topics like CrowdTrail and stuff like that. It's usually just configure this, configure that. But
Yeah,
like, why do you configure this or that? Like I think that is also really important, right?
obviously, it's really important.
Yeah.
Like, I just want people to learn from me because I always provide the scenario based learning and hands on learning so that, people can understand the stuffs really well and they can easily, remember that particular concept and they can easily explain that concept in the interview part. So my main focus is to just prepare my students to go for and crack the interview. That is what I have learned in 18 months of training, providing training to people. I have seen a lot of, beginner students, and they are really interested in cybersecurity and cloud. So
Hmm.
yeah, I have trained them. So I
So,
know.
like, you're talking about training and stuff, right? Like, I have a question in terms of like, why do you think you got into AWS training specifically, or like, why do you want to teach people, or what drives you?
To be honest, I can say that I just love teaching. Okay, and to be honest, why I joined this industry is because I've seen a lot of people, they are not providing the quality material. Okay,
Yeah.
and they are just they are just fooling people that okay, I will give you this scenario, I will teach you this concept, but they are not teaching you that concept. They just cover the theoretical part, they don't cover the practical stuff, the scenario based. And if you ask questions like I've been in the situation where I was asking this instructor a question that okay, could you please explain me this concept, and he was so rude to me. So I decided, okay,
Right.
let's join this industry. And because this is a completely different industry, I'm working in OSINT and in intelligence work, but this field is really different for me, like
Yeah.
what the work I'm doing in the company. But I
Hmm.
just want to help other people. That is the reason I've decided to launch my YouTube channel.
That's really cool because, like you said, like practical information, especially like because when you do, you understand, and I think that's a really cool thing, especially in Hakin9 as well. Like a lot of the courses, like and it's like new topics, but they're also really, you learn a lot of practical stuff. Like
Yeah,
I read about the issue about, when they're going to be letting out like more about like satellite hacking and stuff. I was really pumped up for that. I was like, man, this is going to be cool because you
yeah.
get to learn the theoretical part. but you also get to learn practical part and you get to test it out on your own, right?
Obviously, yeah.
That is a really important factor that drives curiosity, but also continuous learning.
Yeah, obviously. The course should be practical, it add value to the people's life, they are paying to us and they want this kind of material, they want that kind of support. And as an instructor, I feel it is my responsibility to teach my students and support my students. And I like in SOC experts, I have a lot of students actually. They always come to me, they ask their queries, and I obviously, guide them in their interview process as well. What type of question the interviewer will ask you. They always have these types of questions. So it is
Yeah,
really, important to help other people for me.
that's true. That's amazing. Thank you, Afshan. Like, and I think like I've asked you a lot of questions. Like, let's see if people in the chat have questions because it's I've been asking quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has the question, please join in the discussion. Just type them into the chat window. Don't be shy. There was a question regarding the YouTube channel link and your LinkedIn option, and I've shared the links so people can check those out. Oh, there's a question coming. Mm,
Oh, okay.
and there are more questions coming. I have one quick question, and it might be very basic question and brief, but I'm really curious how fields of OSINT and AWS security help you in your everyday work. How do they overlap, and do you have any interesting case studies regarding this intersection of these two fields?
Actually, in my organization, I have to wear different hats. So sometimes I'm doing some coding work, sometimes I'm doing some reconnaissance work. And it is like, obviously in our organization we are also utilizing this AWS and Azure cloud. So it is not going to be a problem. You have to be constantly learning in this field, that what I have learned. So both the fields are my favorite. OSINT I'm doing is for out of curiosity. It is my nature, social engineering and everything. But AWS is like, it's a technical concept for me. So I do it with passion as well, for securing the cloud and penetration testing. That is also my niche. Yeah.
All
Uh,
right.
I sorry, Bartek. I actually
Yeah,
have
go on, go on.
uh like like in the stuff that you kind of like help people go through, especially because like AWS gives you free credit. So like
Yeah.
a little bit about that, like how your challenges are set up. Can people use free credits for that, or they how do they have to do that?
Like you're talking about the AWS Community Builder program?
Yeah. So
Because
are like free credits enough for them to follow through your course, or like like what kind of there?
I haven't approached them yet, but yeah, this is gonna be a nice idea. Like you have given me a cool idea, by the way. I'll approach them.
Yeah.
But if you want to, like, they will also give you 500 credits for individual projects as well. So yeah,
Right. So
like
can
if
people use AWS free tire to do this, or do they have to go through the community builder?
no, the free trial is sufficient. I'm also using the free trial in the course.
Awesome. That's it, folks. Everything is, easy and simple and it's practical. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
There are two questions from the audience. So the first question is, do you have virtual labs or do we set up the vulnerable buckets in our AWS account during the course?
We are not gonna perform a vulnerable lab part because we are securing the infrastructure. As you guys can see, that we are working on the defensive side, right? Not an
Mhm.
offensive side. So we will see how we have this vulnerable code and how we can, utilize the AWS core security services to, find out the threats and vulnerabilities in the code. And after finding the vulnerability, we will also see how we can utilize these core services to mitigate those threats. So it is all about, utilizing AWS core security services
Okay.
for defensive strategy. Yeah.
Sorry, a shameless plug, but if you want to go more offensive, you can also do my course exactly on Hakin9 too. So you know,
Yeah, that's a cool promotion.
Yeah. Uh, Another question: is this essential to know AWS, or a basic knowledge of AWS is fine for the course?
No, basic knowledge of AWS is fine. If you know the EC2 service, S3 service, and how to create S3 bucket, then these are sufficient. You guys can take the course.
Mhm.
But you will learn a lot in terms of VPC, like how VPC peering actually works, AWS Transit Gateway, because I have spent actually 2.5 hours for VPC module, and you will see a lot of scenario-based question there as well. NAT gateway, internet gateway, because I focused, like the core focus will be on two services, IAM service and VPC, because they both are important for securing the cloud environment.
Right. Stafford, since you mentioned your course for Pentest Mag, could you say a little bit about your own framework that you built for the purpose of this course? Because this is also something very interesting.
yeah. Thank you, Bartek. So I kind of built like a framework called Hasprone. It kind of emulates real world cloud security vulnerabilities. So and it spins them up. So like you said, vulnerable labs. So you can actually spin up. It sets up everything for you. So in the back end, it's like Terraform, but it sets up the vulnerable kind of lab for you. And AWS free tar is enough for it. And so you just go and attack at it, and you kind of have this offensive kind of view. You see
Yeah,
why certain security misconfigurations are would kind of be vulnerable, and how it lets attackers come into your system. So and the course goes through that. So if you guys are interested in that, go ahead.
yeah, and this is pretty cool because actually both your courses, your Afshan and
Yeah.
your Stafford, they're like complementing each other. Like so, this is really cool stuff. Um, there's a question from the chat. In the course, there is pentesting cloud AWS with Cloud Goat and Paku.
I haven't covered that because, obviously, as I've said earlier, it is not an offensive course. It is a defensive course. So obviously, I will cover the most defensive strategies rather than going offensive. But I'm working on some cool courses on offensive security side as well. But you guys can check out Stafford
So
course for offensive security.
Gustavo, Hasbro is actually it was inspired by Cloud Goat. So
Hmm.
what you have in Cloud Goat, you would have in Hasbro. It's a little bit different. It's kind of it has my kind of taste in it, but it's kind of similar to Cloud Goat, where Cloud Goat sets up vulnerable instances. Similarly, Hasbro sets it up. So more offensive view. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Any more questions? Mhm. If anyone has any more questions, I strongly encourage to ask them right now. This is perfect opportunity to talk with two experts.
And
on
I would like to share one more important tip, that always document your learning if you're taking any course, like maybe offensive security related course or defensive security related course. Always document your learning, because that will be really, really important when you go for interviews. So, yeah, that is my advice, like the last advice for this webinar.
Yeah, there are two more questions coming.
Mhm.
Do like Bartek, would they need maybe like a link for my course if you want? I could get that.
All right, yeah, I will share that absolutely. This is a good idea. Um, just a moment.
And I'm sending the link for like Hasbro, which is technically the tool that I built. You guys can go through it. Like if you guys are into open source, feel free to kind of also add to it. But yeah.
Yeah, and there's a question: do we get the course recordings for reference? Actually, not. I mean, the course are the products that are purchased, so Webinar is something separate, like sharing with the community with no charge. But our products are paid products at the moment, and yeah. And there is also a question from Jordan. Are you able to compare AWS to GCP and Azure on the security issue slash protection?
I would say that go for AWS because AWS is a market leader in the cloud, and according to Synergy research report, I could say it like AWS cover the 32 to 34% of the market. So go for that, but go for Active Directory, Azure Active Directory if you're interested in that. And for Google Cloud, to be honest, I haven't logged into any Google Cloud product yet, but yeah, I'm currently working on AWS and Azure, so I'll just give you idea on these two cloud provider. You go for AWS, obviously you will learn a lot, because I have also started my cloud learning with AWS, because it will be really easy for you to just transfer your AWS knowledge to Azure. And in our organization, we are using Azure for Active Directory purpose, basically.
So also like AWS is about 80 to 90% of all the applications on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, obviously.
But also AWS is easier, and GCP is I would
No.
like to, it's not for me. I'll say that
Mhm.
AWS is more.
Yeah, you will learn a lot, and they implement services really well. They are working on we are working on this AWS developer, product manager management team, and they are really amazing. The Petty Rock they have launched, it is also an AI or ML tool. You can create applications without writing a single code. Amazon Bedrock is there, so they are amazing. Their product manager management team is amazing, and it's really great to work with these amazing and brilliant minds.
Mhm. All right. So, does anyone have any more questions? Um, if not, I have only one final questions, maybe not uh, strictly related to the main topic of the webinar, but it's a question to both of you guys. Uh, which technology apart from AWS, which cloud technology apart from AWS do you find the most fascinating right now in terms of security?
I would say Azure Cloud. After AWS, Azure will become. So I haven't tried Google Cloud yet, so I don't have any idea about Google Cloud. But yeah, both AWS and Azure, you can easily integrate these two cloud provider easily. They have options to integrate these, so it will be really easy for you to if you want to integrate some services and resources. So yeah, in terms of security, we all know how Microsoft products actually work. So yeah, I cannot rely on the security part. But yeah, for AWS, after AWS, I would recommend go for Azure.
I think in terms of security, like both in terms of a Microsoft route because of Active Directories, especially with Azure, they're really good at that, like Active Directories. And in terms of like when you come to Google route, there's Kubernetes, and
Yeah.
Kubernetes is popping up a lot. So it's something that I'd say if you guys get your hands on Kubernetes, any way you could get your hands on that, go ahead because it's definitely going to be there in the future. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think we're slowly approaching to an end of the event, of the discussion. Chance for the final questions is right now. So if someone has any more question, you are more than welcome. If not, I would like to thank all of you guys for joining us here today. Thank you very much, Afshan. Thank you very much, Stafford. It was
Thank you,
very
Bartek.
Thank you,
insightful event.
Bartek and Stafford.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It was great, and I appreciate it. I also appreciate the questions from the audience. Uh, I wish all of you a happy new year and all the best in the approaching 2024. And yeah, I'll see you around. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Take
Bartek,
care.
thanks for answering all those questions. Thank you, Bartek. Have a great
Thank
day.
you, Bartek, and thank you,
Bye bye.
Stefford.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye, guys. Take care.